Hello everybody, Florence here for the first time in a while. The last time that you heard from me, I was setting up the baby's nursery, and well, I think you can guess what happened after that. I had the baby, and so that is why I have not been around. But I did want to come on really quick just for a little chatty video and give you all a recap of the year, some of the things I liked, some of the things I didn't like, just as we go into the new year and I kind of think about the future. So obviously, in terms of accomplishments this year, there's one big major one, which is that I had a baby. That's always going to be my biggest accomplishment for the year of 2024. Hard to top creating an entire human from scratch. And I really had a great experience with pregnancy, and despite a lot of the stuff that I dealt with in terms of labor and delivery and postpartum, I still, on the whole, considered it to be a really positive experience. I haven't considered as much like telling my birth story on YouTube or anything like that, but I think I would only do it if I knew that there was like a large number of people who really wanted to hear it. I don't have any interest in telling it just for myself, you know? I've told it to a lot of people and it's been very helpful to me, but I only want to tell it to the internet if I think there's like a large portion of the internet or even just of my own subscribers that really are interested in hearing it. I know that when I was getting ready for delivery, it did really help for me to hear other people's birth stories, whether they were positive or challenging. It just helped me get a sense of the types of things that I could expect. So if that is something that you're interested in, please feel free to let me know. I'm not against telling my birth story on YouTube or on social media or wherever. It's just not something that I'm going to do if, like, I'm the only one who cares about it, you know? But I think that it has been a really interesting experience. Like I said, pregnancy for me was absolutely astoundingly smooth. Labor and delivery was a bit challenging, and postpartum was the most challenging, I would say. The first 3 or 4 weeks postpartum were the most challenging, and now I feel like we're kind of getting in the zone, and I'm really looking forward to life with a baby and doing things with him and, you know, just seeing what being a parent is like. So that was definitely my biggest accomplishment this year, was having a baby, but there were some other accomplishments. I passed my wine certification, my WSET level 1, with almost a perfect score on the exam, and I was very proud of that. I finished another semester of grad school, including the last few weeks of the fall semester. I finished those weeks with a newborn, and so that was really, I feel like I was very proud of that accomplishment, that I wrote a 20-page paper and took 2 final exams when I was like fresh off a C-section with a very, very new newborn, like just out of the hospital. And so, while I wouldn't recommend anybody do grad school that way if they can avoid it, I was very proud of myself for doing that, and I do hope that I will be able to continue with grad school in the spring with virtual classes, despite having a baby. I might have to take a leave of absence, we'll see, but I think it's something I'm hoping to do if I can. Hello everybody. Well, this is the true mom life. So not only is it probably like at least a week after I filmed the previous segment of my video, but I am now in my pajamas and wearing a baby. So that is definitely how it goes sometimes. We are in this kind of like 8-week super grouchy period, and so baby wearing is the only way that I get anything done these days. So he's like my little barnacle right here. And we're just going to have a good time filming the rest of this video. So, where I left off was I was going to talk about my travel experiences of the year and my favorite travel experiences. So, I only went, apart from my annual Stanton, Virginia trip, I only went 2 places for just general travel this year. And it's kind of hard to rank them as a best travel experience or a worst travel experience. It's not really fair, because the travel experience that you saw on our channel was my Charleston, South Carolina trip. And it's not really fair to rank that as my worst travel experience, because the only reason it was bad was because I got sick after literally 1 day and was not able to enjoy the rest of the trip. So I spent the entire trip looking at the walls of my hotel room. So it's not really fair to say that that's the worst. I will say it probably would have been the best if I had been able to get out. I had a lot of really cool stuff planned, and I do hope that I'm going to be able to get back there at some point, because it was just a really cool town, and I would love to have seen more of it. But in these days, I really feel like it's important to be responsible if you feel sick, regardless of whether or not you have like COVID or something like that that's novel and serious. I feel like just when you're sick in general, you should be responsible. And even though I just had a cold, I didn't go out because nobody wants a cold, and I didn't want to spread it to people. So in that sense, that means that my best trip, and this could have been the best trip anyway, I don't know, but my best trip of the year was going to New Orleans with a couple of kids from the youth group that I run for the ELCA National Lutheran Youth Gathering, which is a really cool experience. I went to the Lutheran Youth Gathering when I was a teenager, and now as a youth leader, it's really fun to take other kids there and have them get the same experience that we had. It really is quite a big production. There's like 20,000 people there, and it's something that they only can experience there. Like, they'll never have another place to experience that kind of huge community, and like going into a city and just like experiencing the city, like doing service projects and experiencing what it's like to be around thousands and thousands of other people who have, you know, the same religious background as you. It's just a really cool experience. And obviously, like, I've been to New Orleans before, and obviously this was a very different experience. There's a huge drinking culture around New Orleans, and when I was there just with myself and other adults, of course, that's what I did. You know, I got a drink, I walked down the street. I went to like different events that I wouldn't go to if I was doing a more family-friendly thing, and also being pregnant, obviously. You're not going to drink anyway when you're a leader in charge of kids, but I also was pregnant, so I wasn't going to drink anyway. But that meant that I had like tons of time to see a lot of other stuff that I wouldn't have normally seen. We went to a lot of really cool restaurants and really broadened our horizons, and had a really great time. I will say that one of the things that makes it possible for us to do these gigantic gatherings in cities is that we typically, the gathering is usually held in cities that are not very like big vacation destinations in the summer. So when you think about New Orleans, it's not a place that you would really go to in July because it's stupidly hot and floods like every other day, because they'll get these like huge storms and the whole thing will just flood. So not really a top priority vacation destination for the summer, but that's how we have enough hotel space and convention center space to host these big gatherings, so that's where we were. So in that way, that was the big downside, was that, especially for me being pregnant, it was super uncomfortable a lot of the time. But at the same time, it was really fun. Everybody in the city seemed to really enjoy having us there, which is a really good thing to say, because I can see how it could be a tough sell saying that you're going to bring thousands of teenagers to descend upon your city. But people seemed just like really enjoyed having us there. And I'm excited to take another group of kids there. It's every 3 years that this happens. And so 3 years from now, we're actually going to Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I've never been there, so I'm really excited to do that. And just, it's fun to take kids there and to be a part of what we call their faith formation. So that was my top trip of the year. Like I said, Charleston probably would have been closer to the top if I hadn't been sick the whole time. But I'm looking forward to doing more traveling in the new year. We're hoping to take this little guy traveling sometime soon. And, well, not soon, because he's super small, but like this year, which feels very soon. So yeah, hopefully there'll be a lot of new travel stuff coming up in 2025. So now moving on to my favorite and least favorite book of 2024. I actually forgot to bring up my iPad, which has the Storygraph app on it, but I'm pretty sure that from what I remember, I read 26 books in 2024, which for me is really low. I got really busy doing stuff during most of my pregnancy and didn't spend a lot of time reading. And the first trimester, I was so fatigued that it was really hard to even read. Like, it was hard to read, it was hard to even watch something, like follow something that you were watching. And so, basically for the whole pregnancy, I didn't get a ton of reading done. But I did kind of, like, kick it into gear close to the end of pregnancy, and so I ended up getting 26 books read. And as is usually true for me, most of them were just, like, middle of the road, 3.5 star reads. It looks like when I looked at my app, I only rated one book in the whole year 5 stars, which is also unusual for me. I'm not like, I don't hand out the 5-star ratings like candy, but I usually have like a few 5-star reads per year. But the 5-star book that I read this year was by Frances Mays, and it was called A Place in the World. I love Frances Mays' writing. She's well known for Under the Tuscan Sun, which is of course the first book that I read by her. And I have a good number of her books about her life in Italy. That was kind of my inroad to her, as it was, I think, for most people. But A Place in the World is more of like a general kind of compendium of writings about a variety of different places that she has lived around the world throughout her life. And I find her writing about places to be beautiful. It's so clear that she is uniquely skilled at finding the personality of a place, wherever she is. It's just finding the what that place has to tell her, I guess. And it makes it so that every place that she describes is a place that it feels like I want to go to and see. I love seeing it kind of through her eyes in these books. So I already knew I was going to love that book, and it was definitely a 5-star read for this year. Just a wonderful kind of wholesome book to read. And then I also only rated one book 1 star. It was either 1 star or 2 stars. I only rated one book the lowest rating I had this year. And it will not surprise you if you have watched my videos from the recent past to know that my lowest rated book this year was Boy Crazy, which I described a lot in the video, but I'll recap for you that it's a young adult thriller about like this girl who moves with her family to this town, and everything seems really good, but then weird stuff starts happening, and there ends up being this huge like revenge plot thing, and it was just like the thinnest possible book. Like, first of all, it was like super sexist, super like misogynistic. Even the characters that were supposed to be like the good guys were kind of super sexist and like weirdly gross. And so you really came out of it not liking anybody. The main character was just ridiculous and made terrible decisions with absolutely no like rationale behind them. And so that was really annoying. And then I just told you about there's this like revenge plot, and it was just ridiculous how the revenge plot basically was so complicated. Like, a teenager shouldn't have been able to do it, but also it mostly went off without a hitch. Like, she would say, like, I'm gonna do all this stuff, and then it would just happen. Everything would just go fine. And so there was like no real suspense to it, no drama to it. And I mentioned this in my video also, but then at the end, like, one of the kind of collateral things that happens, spoiler alert, I guess, although I kind of hope you're not going to read this book based on what I've said about it, is that, like, in the kind of as collateral damage in this whole thing, the main character's brother becomes, like, permanently disabled, based on, like, the attack that he kind of endured. And so for a while, she, like, goes and visits him. He's in a state hospital because they can't afford a nursing home, and she goes and visits him once a week. And then I guess it sounds like she decides it's like too depressing to do that, so she just stops visiting him forever. And what? Like, if your brother is permanently disabled in a state hospital and you just decide it's too much of a bummer for you to keep visiting him, you know, especially since he became disabled through being the victim of an attack because of, like, stuff that happened with you. It was so irritating. And so, I mean, it was one of those things that was, like, fun to just hate on it. Sometimes you've you've got to read a book that you hate just for the fun of describing how terrible it is. And that's exactly what I did with Boy Crazy. And I donated that book to the yard sale. And I don't know if anybody bought it, but if you were at the yard sale at my church and you bought it, like, Godspeed to you, my friend. I feel sorry for you because that book was real bad. So then the last thing I wanted to talk about was the things that I watched this year that I really enjoyed. And I actually didn't really watch many movies this year. I can't really remember what I did watch. I probably watched a couple documentaries because I usually watch a couple documentaries, at least in a year. And but I don't remember any of them as being particularly memorable. So the main thing that I watched this year, which has become kind of a running gag on my YouTube videos, the main thing I watched was Critical Role. I watched a lot of Critical Role. I finished Campaign 2. I was like 50-some episodes through Campaign 2 when I found out I was pregnant. And I finished the entire campaign, which is 141 episodes, over the course of my pregnancy. Then I moved on to all of the one-shots that were not campaign-specific from Critical Role. So the Doom Eternal one-shot, the Nautilus Arc one-shot, the Legend of Zelda one-shot, all of those. I finished up those. I started Exandria Unlimited, which I am close to finishing now. And so I got like just a ton of Critical Role, and I love it. I will never get tired of watching various Critical Role things. I am still on that bandwagon because, you know, now I'm breastfeeding and pumping, and so I still have plenty of time to sit and watch stuff on my TV. And so Critical Role is still coming in clutch for me and going strong. So that was primarily what I watched in 2024. Highly recommend it to anybody. It is absolutely great, and it really has kind of sparked my love of tabletop role-playing games. I would really love... I've done like a one-shot of Dungeons & Dragons before, but I would love to do more of that. Now it's a little bit hard because, you know, sessions take a really long time and I have a baby now, but I would still love to be able to do that at some point if I can. And so, yeah, that was mostly what I watched this year. I hope that in 2025 I will get some more movies watched, but Critical Role really was great for my pregnancy because you could put the episodes on and just be with them for a long time. It was comforting, and I mean, there was lots of plot to follow, but it felt a little bit easier than like trying to follow the plot of like multiple different movies. It was like more of a long form thing, so I could kind of follow the plot over a long period of time and really learn something about the mechanics of the game. So yeah, that's what I watched mostly in 2024. So in terms of what I'm looking at for 2025, I do have some goals. Obviously, the main goal is survive the first year of motherhood, which has already been quite a production. As I said in my other, the clip that I filmed at the very beginning, I don't know that I'll kind of tell my birth story and my postpartum story on here. I only really want to do that if I know that a lot of people actually want to hear it, just because it's a lot to go through, and it would be a lot to go through for very little reward if nobody wanted to hear it. But it has been like a bit of a bumpy road at the beginning. Now I feel like it's going a lot smoother, even as we're in this kind of 8-week super grumpy period with a lot of tears from the sky and yelling. I feel a lot more equipped to handle it. Like physically, I'm feeling very good and I'm able to get back to a lot of the things that I want to do. But there is still like this long-term survival mode that you get into, and that's going to be my main goal for 2025 is just get through it, you know, be a good mom to the best of my ability, and see where we go from there. But I do have some other things I want to do. I've already started my reading for 2025. I've already finished several books, and we can talk about those, you know, in future videos. And obviously at the end of 2025, I'll also recap the things that I've read. But I have a lot of books that I want to read. I really just, not even specific books that I want to read. I just want to get more reading done. And that has actually been more possible than I expected. There are times when he will take a nap and I'll I'll be sitting there, like he'll take a nap on me, and it's not really safe for me to go to sleep as well. So I will just sit with a book in one hand and I'll just read while he sleeps on me. And that's actually allowed me to get through several books so far this month, probably 3 or 4 books already this month. I'm also reading to him, which is super fun. And I read like regular picture books to him, but I also read texts that are, even if they're not like adult literature, that are like higher reading level literature, just so he can hear the words, even though he has no idea what I'm talking about. But like, I'm reading him Wind in the Willows right now, which obviously is not even something he would read at the very beginner stages of his reading life. But I just think it's nice for him to hear words and to get a concept of what it's like to be read to. And then I also like read him board books and stuff like that, which is a little more on the level. Nothing is really on his level because he's 8 weeks old, but you know what I mean. So a lot of reading in 2025. I want to continue with all my Critical Role stuff in 2025. I've already gotten through Exandria Unlimited Calamity, and in terms of like the Geek and Sundry properties, which is where Critical Role used to be before it had its own channel, I got through the first season of LA by Night, and now I am about halfway through the newest circle of Candela Obscura. So I'm really like, oh, and I'm also halfway, 2/3 of the way through the Mighty Nine one-shot from the London live show. So I'm really just cranking through all the Critical Role stuff. Haven't started Campaign 1 or Campaign 3, but I will get there. So obviously I want to watch that. Tristan loves the Great British Baking Show, so we are watching Great British Bake Off a lot, and most of that is a rewatch for me. I've already watched most of it, but we're getting through all of it that's on Netflix, and I do want to watch more movies in 2025. So I'm looking at my list and seeing kind of where I have a backlog, and maybe I can get some of that stuff off of my list. And then travel-wise, we do have some travel that we're hoping to do coming up this year. In the summer, we have a family reunion in Tennessee. In the fall, I'm thinking about trying to go to New York City Comic Con, or just generally do a New York trip. And in the winter, we're hoping to go back to Mexico. So we have a lot of travel planned out, hopefully with this little guy here and getting him used to traveling. And so that'll be fun for 2025. In terms of accomplishments, I will be almost all the way through my degree by the time we are finished with 2025. So I'm hoping, we have classes starting next week, and I am hoping to actually do my classes this semester. I know that's kind of a lot to think about when I'm still fairly newly postpartum, but I do feel like I have enough support to get through it. We'll see. What I'm doing is starting my classes and then seeing if I have to withdraw and take a leave of absence, but I'm hoping I won't have to. All my classes are on Zoom again, and so I'll get through this semester hopefully. Then in the fall, I'll take another couple of classes and I'll start my internship. My final internship. So that's a 1 year long internship, and I'll finish in the fall of 2026, at which point I should also basically be done with my degree. So that is my main goal for this year, is to, despite it being hard, despite being a new parent, really try to crank on through so that I can get started on my new career. That would be really great. And then I think that is about all that I am like concretely planning for 2025. But obviously there will always be a lot more things that will happen, and you'll be here for all of it. So I hope you enjoyed this video and hearing what I was up to in 2024. I hope you stick around for 2025. Obviously filming is a little more complicated now with having a baby, but I am gonna get creative and see what I can do. So I will see you in the next video, and I hope you have a good one. Bye.